Hi, I want to welcome you to February So Fun 2021, and we're sorry that we're not here in person, and we will be, I'm sure, soon. And I'm Charlotte, and I've been with Quality Sewing and Vacuum for a while. We are in the Pacific Northwest, and we have stores from Bellingham to Olympia. And those of you who are out of our area, we want to welcome you and welcome all of our So Fun customers. And what we have a really exciting thing today is we have a brand new consultant, Linda, and I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about herself.
Hi, my name is Linda James, and I've been sewing for more years than I can even begin to tell you. I started sewing when I was 12 years old, and when I was in 9th grade, I took my first sewing class. They used to have sewing machines in the classrooms then. Each student had their own machine to use. My first project was a wool A-line lined skirt. I immediately went to the fabric store. I got a pattern for an A-line skirt that had a pleat in the front and a pleat in the back. Then I got my black and white houndstooth check wool fabric, took it to school, showed it to the teacher, and I got one of these. She says, well, you'll have to make a sample and you'll have to match those checks. I said, okay. I was so excited because she knew something I didn't know how to do. Fall came along and we had another project, and it was a wool lined pullover vest. That's what they used to wear back when I was a teenager. I went to the fabric store. I got a Vogue pattern that had 2 bound buttonholes on the front. Went to school, showed it to the teacher. She said, you'll have to make samples. I said, okay. That got me started. I was hooked. A little while later, high school, I took tailoring and sewing, and in college, I took a class in tailoring. When I was pregnant with my first child, I made my first quilt. It was the old calico prints, primary colors, and I didn't know what in the world I was doing. I didn't know they had patterns for quilts. Made that. It turned out pretty nice. From there, I made most of my children's clothes and mine as well. About 20 years ago, I found out that they had patterns for quilts, and I've been making quilts like crazy since then. Anyway, recently I was invited to join So Fun, and I was delighted. So here we are today. It's my first time. I hope you enjoy it. I've had a wonderful time making these products, and Charlotte will start off with her first quilt.
First of all, we have a little bit of business to do first. We have a total of 6 door prizes, and we're going to randomly pick 3 today at different times, and we have gifts for you, and you have to be on Facebook or make a comment. Is that correct? And you can either, if your name is drawn during the live feed, please provide us a private message to let us know which store to send your prize. The additional door prizes will be drawn from customers that post a picture of their show and tell. When we do live So Fun, we always have show and tell. So we're giving you guys the opportunity to put your projects on Facebook, and you have the opportunity to win also 3 more prizes. And an email will be sent out reminding everyone of the Facebook Live presentations for the oncoming months. And the drawing for the 3 that are for show and tell is going to be Thursday, February the 9th at 11 a.m. and that is Pacific Standard Time.
That's a Tuesday.
Oh, that's a Tuesday. Okay. Now I'm going to get on with our first book here. And our first book is, we buy jelly rolls all the time. And we put them in our drawers and they look so nice and they're all rolled up or they're flat. Well, we need to use them because actually they make prettier things when they're used. And so we have Love Jelly Roll Quilts. And each one of us did 3 projects out of this book. And my first quilt out of there is this blue one up here. No, I had the wrong one. I'm sorry. I had the wrong one. The first one is this twist and turn. it reminds me of Valentine's Day with X's. And I quilted it on my long arm, and so there's kind of like X's and O's. Those were all jelly rolls that I had left over from a previous project, and I was bound to determine that I was going to use them all, so I added the remaining part on the back, and I've used them all up. You know, when we have a resource center, that means that we need to use that stuff. It's like having a bank. You put the fabric in, now you need to withdraw it and make things. So that's one of the first things. Now, this is a really cool quilt, and it's made with a special ruler. This ruler is by Creative Grids, and it is called the half square 4-in-1 triangle ruler. And that's how I made every one of those triangles in there. I took a strip of fabric, 2 strips, put them together. Now it depends whether you want to make this your main color, this big piece, or you want it light here. That's how you're going to cut it. So whichever is on the bottom when you're cutting, whatever fabric is on the bottom becomes this square right here. So how we do this, Carrie, how do you want me to do this?
Are you fully done there?
You know what? Let me do this. So when we do this, if this gives you a little bit of an idea, I'm going to have to do this way. Okay. Now there is a mark on the end of this ruler, and it's a little black triangle right there. That is where you're going to line it up at the top, and this is going to be a 4-inch, it's a 4-inch square. And so I put a piece of tape here. My first cut is going to go across here, and then I'm going to turn it around, and I'm going to do it this way. So I end up with a block with these 2 fabrics right here. The pieces come out either, you can see that this is either with the light in the center or the dark in the center, and you end up with a block that looks like that. All these products are going to be online on our website and at the end of at the bottom of our Facebook, right? Correct? Okay, thanks. Now the next thing that I made out of this book was granny squares. I was determined, this is again using leftover jelly rolls that I had in my resource center. The only thing that I did different, it's not a quilt, obviously, it's a pillow. And the center square was supposed to be 3 inches. I had 2.5-inch squares, so I started with 2.5-inch squares. I also then took the remaining parts of it and I put them on the back. And one of the things that I do in a pillow, when I make a pillow, I bought the form that has the stuffing in it. I take out some of the stuffing because it ends up to be a real hard pillow, and I want it to be soft. And I also, when I sew my corners, I sew them down. We sold a ruler, many of you have bought it, that kind of tell you how to sew your corners down. I don't know how it works, but it does. About 2 inches from the end is I'm going to take my seam allowance. And anything that I make that is home deck, it has a 1/2-inch seam allowance. And I'm going to take about a little bit like a 3/4 inch seam allowance at the corner. And what that prevents is to have dog ears on your pillows. And another thing that I do to my pillows is I put a zipper, an invisible zipper, in the seam. And in a moment I'm going to do a demo on that and show you how to do that. I think that is, let me make sure I have everything out of my, I think those are the things that I made with my jelly rolls. Oh no. Also with jelly rolls is this bee quilt. This was leftover jelly rolls from a couple of projects that I made for my daughter-in-law who is a beekeeper. The center square was really fun. You just put your blocks together and you're going to cut it across this way and across this way, and you get the 4 for the center. And then the cool thing about the side ones is you're going to make a total strip of fabric, and you're going to cut the center, you're going to cut the corner out here, and what you have left over from that strip makes the outside corner. So these are 2 of the pieces that are left over that are sewn together. So if you look at it, you have a triangle here and here and here. And that's what was left over after I cut a triangle out of the center. So I was able to use up, and I did have some, this was not a a strip. This was actual fabric that I had left over, and I quilted it with bees on it. And I do that on my own long arm, but that was using up all of that fabric. So think of all the jelly rolls that you have in your resource center and see what you can make with them. Okay, we're going to do a demo on the invisible ruler. When you make a pillow and that you're going to put a invisible zipper on it, you are going to leave the two pieces, front and back, right sides up. You lay them on your table, and you're going to mark on the. Now, I mark this with a marking pen. You don't want to mark it with a marking pen. You want to use a choco liner or something that's going to come out. But you need to mark exactly where you want your zipper to start and when you want your zipper to stop. You always buy your zippers longer than what you ever need them. Then you always have room to cut them off, and you have this nice pull there. You have to remember, though, when you cut them off, to put the pull in the inside, because if you don't have a zipper any longer. So, and it kind of looks like you're going to do it backwards, but I have everything lined up here. So this is the side that I did first. Now, if you don't have a zipper, an invisible zipper foot, we will sell you one, or you can use your zipper foot. And this is going to be the side that I sew down first. Now, I want to make sure that this is always lined up, because if I don't line these up and I sew them like this, my zipper's not going to go together correctly. So my first sewing is going to be right down here, and we're going to go to the sewing machine, and we're going to zip this on this side. And you see that this is turned at the top, and that's how it has to be. It has to look like it's not going in correct, because when you turn it right side out, all this comes out, and your zipper is going to just close up, and all this is going to be to the side, and there's your zipper. Let's go sew this at the sewing machine. It's such an easy thing to do, but you want to make sure. Now, one of the things that I also use when doing this, you guys know I love glue. This is our glue stick. So I'm going to take the glue, and I don't like to use any pins here. And I'm going to take that glue, and I'm going to put it on my zipper tape. I'm going to line those up again with, and because I have a 1/2 inch seam allowance, this is going to come out just right. Now, my purpose is there's a little point on this foot, and you want that to run right along the zipper, right there, because it kind of opens the zipper. And I know that many of you probably put in an invisible zipper sometimes, and you actually get your sewing too close. You don't want to do that, and this foot will prevent you from doing it. So as I sew, and this is done in the wrong color. And by having it glued down, I don't have to use any pins. When I get down here to the end, I do want to reverse my stitching on that. And then tie it off. And when you're done, you end up with a great zipper. Isn't that nice? Got a little. So there's your zipper when you get it done. When you have this all sewn together, you're going to put your pieces back together. You're going to take this away. Put your zipper out. Use your zipper foot if you can't get close enough to this line right here, because that's where your seam line is, and make your seam line that goes around your pillow. Now, make sure that this slide is in the inside here, and do the same with the other side. Then you can sew all the way around your pillow and turn them right side out, and you have this wonderful invisible zipper. I think.
Okay, for the Jelly Roll book, I chose Perfect Pinwheels. This is by doing this cut, this is the primary cut like Charlotte showed you, where I use the darker colors. When you cut it, the secondary cut is smaller, and in the book it shows the secondary quilt that you get with just one set of jelly rolls. These are smaller, so it comes out to be the size of a baby quilt. But that's from one jelly roll and using one cut for the large quilt, and the smaller cut that you get makes a secondary quilt. I quilted this one on my home machine, and I had the pinwheels done by a professional quilter. The other quilt that I made from the Jelly Roll book is this baby quilt, and I did it in flannel. It's a flannel jelly roll, and I backed this with minky. This is the first time I'd used the minky, and it turned out absolutely great. One thing I want to show you on this, we have a tool that we're going to preview. It's called the Gizmo, and I used it to fluff up the minky on the lines where I stitched. I also quilted this on the Sashiko machine, which I will do a demo on a little further on. So I wanted to make sure that you got to see that. The book has, I don't know if it's a burp cloth or not, it's small. So I took my extra fabric and I made a burp cloth out of it. And I don't know if you can see along the edge is done with Sashiko. It looks like hand quilting. And then the book also shows a pillow. And mine's a little bit different. It only shows one stripe. I added two, again, because I wanted to use the fabric up. My zipper is a little different than Charlotte's in that before I sewed it together, I inserted my zipper down a little bit further from the edge because I don't like the zipper up along the edge. And that's also the Sashiko.
So I have two questions that have come in. One question was, do you pre-wash your jelly roll strips?
No.
No.
They will shred to nothing if you do that. If you've ever pre-washed, say, a fat quarter, and you have not serged the edges, when you get it out of the washing machine, you might have a fat 5-inch square. So, no, I don't pre-wash those.
And then they also asked if you had any tips for quilting with your minky.
Well, like I said, the only thing that I wanted to point out was the minky that I used it's like fur. Some of them are just kind of velvety and maybe have those dimples on them. This is the one that's like a fur. And like I said, when I stitched on the outside, it made that stitching line back here. And so I used here. Okay, thank you. This is the Gizmo.
No, stiletto.
Stiletto.
Yes.
Yes.
Stiletto.
There you go. And so I use that to kind of fluff up on those stitch lines. So.
Thank you.
Okay, and the next thing we're going to do is the color wheel. This notion is foolproof color wheel set. The set has die-cut wheels in it. There's 8 of them. It lists the different types of color combinations that you use the wheels for. There's 12 colors that includes tints, tones, and hues. And the first one I want to show you, I brought some fabric samples so that I could give you a visual. This is what the die cut looks like. And this is what it looks like if you're laying it on your fabric. This one is called the Direct Complement. That's the number 1 wheel. The next one I wanted to show you is the Analogous Complement, which is number 9 wheel. And I'll show you how this works. So you take the die cut wheel, place it on there, and then find your colors. And this, as you can see, pretty much matches. Okay. The next one I want to show you quickly is, this is the number 10 wheel. And there's the fabric samples that I brought. And when we lay the wheel on here, you'll see that it picks up pretty much all of those colors. So if you don't have any idea of what color combination you're looking for when you go to the store, if you want to take this with you and take your wheel and just kind of spin it around, find something you like, and then go looking for your fabric. And that's the foolproof color wheel.
Linda, there was a question about could you use a glue stick pen to attach your minky, to hold the minky down?
Use a glue stick pen?
Yeah. So the question was, can you use a glue stick pen to keep your minky in place instead of pens?
I don't think I would, because as it turned out, it's rather heavy. Between the combination of the flannel and when I put it on the machine, I had to actually make sure that I fed the material through the machine because the weight wanted to pull back. I don't think I'd use glue. Actually, I personally, on these small quilts, I hand baste. I use a very long stitch and I hand baste with a needle, and I do it about every 5 inches across because I don't want to take a chance of anything shifting. So anyway. Okay, so the next thing we have is, I lost my paperwork. Charlotte's going to do a drawing, or no, we're going to do the twist and turn.
She's going to do it, Carrie.
Oh, she is?
She's going to do
Oh, okay.
Twist and turn. So the first one that I did is Flights of Fancy, and it's flying geese. And pretty much I took my color cue from this larger print fabric, and that's how I chose my fabrics for the geese. And then I try to use 108-inch wide backing, because when you put seams on the back of your quilt, sometimes it's difficult for long arm quilters, and you want to make sure that it doesn't pull apart. The next one I did is called, in the book it's called Beach Glass, and in the book it's in kind of seafoam green colors, but I had this pink print that I wanted to use, and so I chose colors that are in the print to do the blocks. Now this is, you'll see there's a block here, and the idea with this book is that you can twist and turn those blocks different ways, and that's what I did with this one. This is, you see the block here, and I put 4 of those together. I also quilted this with the Sashiko machine. I hand basted it before I did any quilting, and I also used the Choco liner on some of these to make sure that I hit the right points. And that's another item that I'll be showing again. So anyway, okay, back to Charlotte.
Okay, so this is still in the twist and turn book, And it's a really cool book. There are 16 designs in this book, but there's 8 ways that you can put them together. And Linda just showed you a way to take one block and how to change it into something entirely different. And if you look on the front here, we have a table runner, and then we have the quilt. And this is the option 1 and option 2. I was on a quest to use everything I had in my resource center, and before I went out and bought any more fabric. And so this is my twist and turn in a table runner, and it is done with option number 1. And I'm going to demonstrate a mirror, the magic mirror, in a few minutes, because like Linda just said, this is one square right here. And so I'm going to put 4 together here to make this one block. And when I put my first fabrics together, as I say, I'm using up everything that's in my sewing studio, and I didn't like them. But I knew that by only making 1 and then seeing how I would like it in a 4 with my magic mirror. And I'll show you that in a little bit. Now also with this twist and turn, you're going to make a lot of half square triangles here. And if you have, this is your square. This is a 7.5 inch square. It has the 2 pieces of fabric on there. And you can either draw a line like I did. And of course, this is done with a Sharpie, and you're not going to do that. But we're going to get 4. We're going to get 4 squares out of here. And how we're going to do that, we're going to draw a line completely across here and across here. You're not going to sew on that line. And you're going to sew 1/4 inch from that sewn line and go around the block 1/4 inch to that, 1/4 inch to that, 1/4 inch. This is your cutting line. And then that's how you end up with your blocks together. They're really cool. It goes up fast. And if you don't have, there is a Y ruler that you can get. You probably have it in your own stash at home. But this is how you do those blocks. And let's see. So the next one, now it's really interesting. If you saw the beach glass that Linda did over there, and I did the same quilt. However, mine's in this dark blue. Every one of those pieces are left over. And if you look at the block, it is totally done with triangles. That's all it's done with. So we have, this is the block right there. And I like, this was all used up. This was stuff in my resource center. This was leftover fabric from some stuff. I even unstitched some that I had left over and continued to make this quilt. I quilted it on my long arm myself. And I usually always use King Tut thread. Now the next quilt in here, it was the courtyard, and it's actually a table runner here. And it looks like it's complicated, and it is not. It is not complicated at all. And this is, again, this is one of your squares right here, and you're going to put 4 of those together, and that makes this block. I'm going to bring this down and show you how to use the mirrors. And this saves you fabric, because you know if you only make 1 block and you don't like how it turns out, you put it down on your table. Let me move some stuff because I want Carrie to get this in well.
Yep, we're good.
Oh, you good? Okay. So this is one of my blocks right here, and I want 4 of them to go together. And so I'm going to take my mirror, and this mirror has a cool little stand. So you get 60 degrees, you get 45 degrees, and it's really cool. You know how we make those table runners that are on a 60-degree ruler? You can figure it out before you ever sew anything, how it's going to turn out. Now I'm going to put this on my quilt where I want it. And this one and this. And what it's going to do is to make sure I did it exactly right, I put this on the top here. It keeps that right in there. So now I can look into that mirror and I can see how the 4 blocks will make it all together. Is that a good? Okay. This is a really cool tool. Now, if you have pattern pieces and you want to see how a square will come out using these mirrors, I want to see how I could get this together. And you get, let's see, where did I put it this time? I think, let's see. I had it together so cool. I think it's this way, where I have this like this. And I want to see how I could do four of this particular fabric. Let me see if I do. Okay, so I can see where my leaves are going to go. I can see if I want to do that. And if not, I just move it. Move it to wherever I think it looks the best, and that's where I'm going to cut that fabric. When you want to do it, this you'll do before you cut the fabric on anything that's printed. Also, if you have rows of really nice flowers, and I didn't have any fabric for a demo on that, it'll actually show you how you could get a square with these flowers going all the way around the square just by looking at the smear. This one will kind of show you what it'll do. Let's get this way. And if you want if you wanted to run it this way, or if you want to run it, let me turn it around for you, or if you want to run it this way, and it'll show you which way you want to run your fabric before you cut it, and it saves you some fabric. And get it out when you're doing fancy different patterns on your fabric, and you can choose what you want to do. You can make a block just so pretty by just looking at this fabric, put the mirror in there, and then you cut it where that is. And that's the same as if you're going to do one of those table runners that are all done with a 60-degree ruler. Before you cut your fabric, you know what it's going to look like, and that's the advantage of it. That's what I think that's all of that out of that book. I also used it on this one. This was what saved me from making 3 extra blocks. When I put these blocks together, I didn't like what they looked like at first, and so I put it down. I put my mirror on it, and I thought, I don't like that. Put my mirror on it, and I changed my fabric. So it saved me a lot. We are going to have a drawing, and our first drawing is Linda Hooper. And you are going to get Nifty Notions applique scissors with a bill. Cool. Okay, what are we doing now?
So somebody asked, what about seam allowance? So with the mirror, how does that work?
Well, you can bring it in 1/4 of an inch on each side. So you can, actually I don't, I did that, but it came out right. I use it, and just know that you have that seam allowance, and I just brought mine in a little bit to see exactly how I wanted my blocks. But you can see how it really works so well, because you have, this is 4 blocks together, and it makes that wonderful block right here. And had I not, if I didn't like the colors, I could do that again. I can change the colors if I didn't like the color going, the light color going this way and the dark color going this way. And this particular table runner is made with using 1 block. It's just twisting and turning it different ways. That's how you do it. It's the same way as the table runner over there. So okay, we have one more item to show you that's really, everybody should have these in your sewing studios. These are by Tula Pink, and these are the really tiny duckbill scissors. And many of you do applique on the machine, and you have to cut around that applique. I use my scan and cut, so mine are pre-cut. But before I ever had a scan and cut, I use my duckbill scissors all the time. And what a duckbill scissors is going to allow you to do is cut very close to your fabric without picking up that bottom fabric and cutting through it. It's a real safe way. This is really cool for putting inside your hoop and cutting those out. And remember, when you are embroidering and you're going to take your hoop off of the machine after you've sewn that outside side seam allowance, and you have your cutting line there, take it off of the machine and lay it on a flat surface before you cut it. Don't lay it on your knee or on your leg, because you can cut your leg, and it's gonna make your fabric bow, and it's not gonna be in the right place when you put it back in the machine. Do not take it out of the hoop, but just out of the machine, put it down on a flat surface and cut around. And those scissors are perfect. They're just the perfect size.
And Charlotte, do you by chance have the book that you were just most recently talking about?
Yes, I do.
Can show that cover?
Yes, I do. Right here. It's buried. This is the Twist and Turn book.
Thank you.
And the back, This is the one that Linda and I both did. This is called the sea glass. Hers is in pinks. Mine happens to be in blue. Here's this runner. And then the one that I did over here is right there. So you can see how the different fabrics make everything look so different. And hers was, oh, and here's the other one that Linda did with the flying geese. So they're really great they're great patterns in here. And like I say, out of each pattern, you have a different way to make them. And use up those fabrics that you have in your stash. It's really a resource center. Okay.
Okay, the next one we're going to show you is a pattern called Shuffle. It's by Canuck Quilter Designs. And I did one set with a red background, or red inside and white background, the white on the back. And I want to mention, before I forget, if you're using red, especially batiks, they need to be pre-washed. Maybe use color catchers to make sure that they don't bleed, especially if you're using a white background. This one I quilted on my home domestic machine. The red one, the red set that's here, I quilted that on the Sashiko machine. And somebody asked to see the back of the piece that's been done with Sashiko, and that's what it looks like. It's just a plain stitch, but it still looks very nice. Okay. And somebody also asked about my dress. No, I did not make it. I wish I could say I did, but I've had it for quite a while. But thank you very much. Then I want to talk to you about the Sashiko. We're going to do a demo. First of all, I want to tell you that the Baby Lock Sashiko is offering a rebate right now, a company rebate. If you purchase the Baby Lock Sashiko machine, you'll receive a $200 rebate and a 60-day trial of online classes. Offers good while supply lasts, and it's good from now through March 26th at participating dealers. We are a participating dealer, of course. And if you want to come down and see this Sashiko in person, live, I would suggest you call to make sure that somebody is here to go through that with you. But we have one on the floor. Now, I'm going to show you some samples of how it's done. Now that we're all wearing masks, the first thing I did when I was making samples was this mask. And you can see it has a traditional fan design. Okay, I used, you use 30 weight Sashiko thread. It's a long staple thread. The one I have on the machine is by Sulky. And we'll go over to the machine and I'll show you what we're going to do. I did one part of the mask already, so you can see what it looks like. I used Floriani Stitch and Wash tearaway stabilizer on the back before I stitched it. This is what it looks like after I got through. After I stitched it, I took it to the sink and put it in some very warm water and let it set for a while to make sure it dissolved nicely. I did have to use my sharp tweezers to kind of pick some of the threads out, but you can see that's the front, that's the back. And when you do the Sashiko, it locks. The stitch locks. You don't have to use fray check or any kind of a glue to lock the stitches. I use it anyway on something like this that I know I'm going to wash a lot, just because I want to make sure it doesn't pull out. This is the other side, and what I've done is I've used the Choco liner I told you about. It gives a very fine chalk line, and I drew my design on there, I didn't have a template. I used a ruler. And then I laid, after I did the first side, I laid it back or side to side with the other so I could try to make sure that both sides would be the same. Okay. And I just used a generic mask, although we do have a mask template here in the store. I think it's Creative Grids. Yes. So you can get that, but you can use any template that you have or any mask template. If you're doing the pleated masks, my suggestion would be to use a very plain linear design with the stitches, and because it will be folded, and so that would work as well. And so I already got it threaded. You'll notice on this machine there's no thread on the top. They only have a bobbin thread. The needle goes down, catches the thread, comes up, stitches, and it locks each time, as you can see with the back of the other piece. So I'm going to go ahead and do one of these. There's a little line on the foot, so I'm going to line that up with my chalk line. Okay, and it's not catching. Okay, that's what we get with live TV. So we're supposed to be able to turn the wheel forward, and it's supposed to catch. That's get it into this position to either take the bobbin in or pull it out. So I'm going to make sure it's in there. It threads from the side. Let's see if I can get this to work. Charlotte, did you have some scissors over there? This has got a frayed. It threads through these two little holes. Can you see that, Carrie?
Yep.
Okay. And you go straight through and try to pull it through. And then you have to hold this out. And unlike most of our bobbin cases, this one inserts with the thread down at the bottom. So, do you want me to turn the machine?
No, you're good.
Okay. So put that in, and let's try it again. There we go. Thread comes up, and what you have to do is take the thread out like that. Pull the tail out about 10 inches and clip it on the side, and that locks the thread in place so that when you start stitching, it doesn't come loose and go down inside. So let's try that again. Okay, we're lining it up with the center, and it has a different sound than your regular sewing machine does. And the table I have mine on at home is a wooden table, and it sounds like a thrashing machine. So I nicknamed it the Thrasher. Okay. Down. When it's blue, it means it's ready to stitch. And lift it up, pull it straight out into the clipper, down. All right, come on. I don't know why it's not clipping. it's supposed to cut the thread for you. Anyway, so there's that stitch. Now I won't do any more of that mask because it takes so much time, but I wanted to show you this. This is an example of the stitches that the machine does. The stitch is a number 2 on the dial and a number 2 on the spacing. Then I moved it down to, left it on the number 2, moved the spacing down to number 5. In this case, it's a number 3 stitch with a number 5 spacing, number 4 stitch, 5 spacing, 5 length stitch, and 5 spacing between stitches. This is the middle of the road 3.5 stitch as well as spacing, and that's what it looks like on the back side. So you can see you get a beautiful stitch on the top and you get a very nice stitch on the back, so it looks finished. And that's your Sashiko machine. So we have one on the floor, and we'd love to have you come in and sit down with one of our associates and give it a try. And with that $200 rebate that you get, we have an excellent selection of fabrics here, and you can shop to your heart's content.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about my shuffle and give you a kind of, it was a real fun pattern. And this blue, it says it has the turquoise on the front. This was made with Maywood fabrics. And the cool thing, it looks complicated. It really does. It looks like it's complicated. It is so easy because you're just sewing strips together and you're cutting them in the 2 inches or whatever the pattern, I think it was 2 inches that it called for. And so these are all your pieces that you're actually putting together and then cutting them down to make either the table runner or the placemats. And what I did, these are the strips that go between here. Each one of the, you start out with a square here, and then you're going to use this strip here. I did not pre-cut my strips to go around here. I left them with a long strip, and as I made as I sewed this one down, I cut it at the end, and that kept me from wasting any fabric. I could just lay it. It was real quick. I didn't have to cut all these first before I sewed. This is all sewn just on my domestic machine, just with a grid ruler, just using your seam guide that comes with your walking foot. All this was done with my walking foot. I probably turned the dial up to, when I do a top stitch, I turn it up to a 3.0 stitch length so that it shows better. And what I did in here, what's in this one is 911 fusible interfacing. That's a Pellon, and so I could fuse all of that to it. And this washes up really good. I use placemats all the time, and so I want that fusible. And anytime you're doing anything fusible, what you have to remember to do is it's glue. And so once you put that heat to that, and you're trying to fuse those two pieces together, what you need to do is let it cool before you move it, because if you move it when the glue is still wet, you're moving that and shifting that fabric, and that's when we say, oh gee, we don't like fusibles because it looks like it doesn't stick. It sticks well, and with every one of our fusible products, guess what? They have instructions with them. They're for you to read, because some of them are going to use steam, some of them want a dry iron, and you need to a cooler iron or a hotter iron, and you need to do what the manufacturer has told you to do, because that you're going to get the best results out of it. And so these are all fused together, and I just used fabric that I had in my resource center for the backings, and that's how I did it. Okay, so soak your troubles away. This was a really, really cute design, and it's a CD. It's an embroidery design. And Linda and I both did ours different, which is really cool. This one was made with a stand, like you see it on the pattern. Now, there are 2 sizes, and we both made them the larger size. So you can tell that the smaller size is much smaller. this was made completely in the hoop. I did not take it out until I had completely put the back on and turned it right side out, cut the sides completely in the hoop, and you get this nice design. Probably has cutaway, no show fusible mesh that was in my embroidery hoop when I did it. And I used SGV files that come with this pattern. And what I mean by that is that this tub and these flowers, there is a design that I can take into my Scan and Cut, and I can cut it. I have taken care of my fabric by starching it first, putting the fusible web on it. I take the paper off before I put it in my Scan and Cut. Now there's going to be two different files in this particular design. One of them is if you're going to cut it by hand, and that's going to be reverse. So you want to make sure if you're not using a Scan and Cut or your cutter machine, you need to use that file. And if you're using your Scan and Cut, your cutting machine, you're going to use it where it's face up, because one is going to be reverse and one is not. And if you don't want to do the wrong one, you just don't, because it won't line up. And these flowers, which is really, really different, they're all done with one cut file. They are not done separately. So here's the tub. And that's an SVG file. So this is something that I would put through my scanner, and I outlined it in really heavy black so that you could see it. And I'm going to run it through my Scan and Cut. It scans it. Then I'm going to put my fabric down with the paper off. It always works better for me with the paper off. You guys have to do what, works best for you. That works best for me. And then when you pull it off, you have it all pre-cut, and then all you do is put it down. The other file for the flowers, all the flowers are just, I thought I had that. Oh, no, here it is. There's just one SGV file. So if you're cutting this by yourself, you're going to put it on your webbing on your fabric. You're going to iron it on, leave it set so that it sets up real good. Don't start taking off the paper until it's completely cool. If you do, you start pulling off the glue with that. So let it cool. And then you're going to have to hand stitch around all those flowers. I didn't have to because I put it in my machine and let that do the cutting. But the cool thing was that it comes out and you have these beautiful flowers on here, and all you have is one cut around it.
Okay, I did mine a little bit different. I don't have a Scan and Cut, so I use the directions that are in the file. And let's see if I can show you. I printed out pictures that you can use from your computer so that you can see step by step how you do this. And Charlotte was talking about how her Scan and Cut cuts out this shape and then she places that on. Because I don't have one, the pattern itself stitches, it pre-stitches that tub, and then it tells you what size piece of fabric you cut and put your interfacing behind it, iron-on interfacing. Place it in place, and let's see, where is it? If we go down here a little ways, it tells you exactly when to put that tub on there, and then it stitches around it. Now, because I used their instructions, it was like a 2x5 piece of fabric and a rectangle, and you stitch over it. It stitches it in place, and then I used these. That's what I used these scissors for, because I had to get in there really close to the edge to trim away the fabric that I didn't want. So that's another thing that those scissors are really good for. Now, in this case, I don't have room on my vanity to set something freestanding. So I thought, I'll stretch it over a canvas. So I went to the local fabric store and bought a pre-stretched canvas. After I finished this design, I laid the canvas down on the back of it, and I marked it with a ruler to see how much fabric I needed. Brought it over made sure that there's a groove, and I used my friction pen, which is a washable pen, so I didn't have to worry about it being permanent and ruining anything, and marked it. So I was able to cut right exactly along that edge. And then you simply fold the fabric just like you're wrapping a Christmas present. As a matter of fact, there is directions on YouTube on how to wrap a canvas with fabric. So that's all there is to it. It's all ready to go. Put a nail in the wall and hang it up.
Charlotte, there was a question about, do you use the fusible side up in the scan?
Okay, the question was, do I use the fusible side up in the scan and cut? No, if I did that, I would have to have reversed my fabric, or reversed the design, I should say. So when you're actually putting a design into your scan and cut, you're going to have the fabric up and your web down. Now, she also said, you know, there's 3 ways to do this. We have 3 ways that we could have done what I just did. Use the scan and cut, and then do it the way that Linda did, was actually using your duckbill scissors and going around those pieces, and you pre-cut your 4x5 piece of fabric. The other way is when you use the files that are in the package that are for you to draw on your webbing, on the paper side of your fusible web. You could have that all cut out before you take it to the sewing machine. So there's 3 ways that you could do this, whichever way you want.
The next notion that we wanted to highlight are the friction pens, and these are heat removable. So you just mark up your fabric like crazy and use your iron on it. It takes those marks right out. And I used it on many of the items that I have here today. The canvas being the one that I use the most. The next one we have is it's called the Gypsy Quilter Cutting Gizmo. And I'll show you how this works. It's pretty neat. It's got a no-slip surface on the back of it. It also has a little screwdriver that you can pop out of the bottom of it that you can use if you're going to, when you need to replace blades. It has extra blades in there that you can use. Anyway, when you're doing a lot of piecing, many of these quilts have hundreds of pieces, and it's just so nice to be able to use something like this. Come along and just like this, one after another, after another, after another. So it's a really handy gadget, and it doesn't move, as you see. Okay. And then I've already talked about that fingertip stiletto. Charlotte's was in red, mine's in blue. It's adjustable for anybody's. I had this open at home. So as you can see, it adjusts to whatever finger you want to use it on. It's great for when you're using the iron with those little tiny pieces and you don't want to burn your fingers.
The question was asked, the Gypsy Cutter, does it store down for travel? Can you take it somewhere with you?
No.
Oh, okay. Apparently not.
Once it's in place, it's there.
Okay.
Charlotte's.
Okay, I'm going to talk about the stiletto. I use the stiletto in everything. I have a stiletto at each one of my machines. I believe in them. They're better than trying to get my finger, but this is really a cool thing. I have a block made here with a little tiny seam in it, and I have this cute little mini iron. If you guys don't have this mini iron, I'm asked every time we bring a small iron in, does it get hot? It's an iron. It gets very hot. So do not put your fingers on it, and it's a cute little thing because it is actually a steam iron. It comes with this cute little filler here, and you fill it up right at the top here, and put it in there, and it steams really, really well. The cool thing about having a little iron like this is I have to the side of my sewing machine, I have a wool mat right here. And so if I'm making a lot of blocks and I need to open up a seam and I don't want to go to my ironing board, I have the opportunity to do it right here while I'm sitting. I can take my fingertip stiletto. I don't know if I should do it this way, sideways, so you guys can see. So I have the fingertip. You know, I use my fingernails a lot, but you know, if you don't have fingernails and you don't buy them or whatever, use this fingertip, and this is going to keep that seam open as you're going along there to iron it, and you don't end up burning your finger. I can't tell you how many times before I did that I would burn my fingers trying to get a small seam allowance open, and then trying to keep it open as I went along and made this nice seam. But yes, this gets hot. Take it to your classes when we have classes back in person. You can take it to your retreats. But I love having it right beside my sewing machine with my wool mat. And the advantage of the wool mat, many of you have it, is the fact that it takes the moisture out of the fabric and makes the seam really, really well. And you want nice crisp seams when you're doing all of this work, and even sewing, you'll love it. But set that right beside your sewing machine. Just remember, it's hot, and don't put anything next to it, because I can't tell you, I've done that and it burns it. And I've even burned a cord on my sewing machine one time, and I wasn't going to tell my husband, but when I saw his saw cord had a hole, you know, had been cut, and he wrapped tape around it, I thought, well, I could fess up that I burned my cord.
Does that iron have an auto shut off?
No, I do not believe so. I don't think so. Oh, she asked me, if this iron has an auto shut off. I don't think any iron today, unless you bypass something, does for your own safety. My thing about safety, because I've been known to burn things by accident, is that I choose to, when I'm finished with any iron, I have a big Laura Star and just regular irons, I unplug my iron just to make sure. And so I don't think it's ever turned off when I don't know. I don't think it has an auto shut off. I'm sorry. I don't think mine's ever shut off. So.
And is the stiletto heat proof?
Well, it's metal. Okay. So, is the stiletto heat proof? It is metal. So it could get warm if you touched it with the iron, but you're going to run your finger, your stiletto, you're going to run that before your iron. So you're not going to get it hot, and it is going to be, you're not going to melt it, it's metal. So that's it. You know, I don't know what I'd do without my stilettos. Thank you. Anyway, that's it on that one.
Okay, are you dizzy yet from watching us go back and forth? Right now I want to show you that Choco liner that I mentioned before. I love this. I use it so much. It's got a very fine wheel in there, kind of like an old-fashioned tracing wheel. And this is a package that it comes in. And I'll show you. This is what I used on the mask. And this is how it works. It just makes a very fine line, and it brushes off pretty well. So anyway, that's a Choco liner, and I highly recommend it. The next thing we have a drawing, and this is going to be the Jade Jacket pattern. And I don't know much about it. It's easy design, has only 4 pattern pieces, but so many options. And it has all sizes. It tells you the fabric requirements for 45-inch or 58-inch width fabric. And this is going to Margaret Oliver. So Margaret, give us a call and let us know where you want to get your pattern. Okay. The next thing we want to show you is the windmill applique. This is made by Patch Abilities Inc. And it makes this darling windmill wall hanging. you can get it either with just the pattern or you can get it with the wall hanging. It's a little wrought iron hanger that goes with the pattern. And it's mostly applique, just a little bit of regular stitching, and a little tiny bit of embroidery down here. I used my brother machine to do all of the applique around all of the pieces. And this is what the back looks like. And I was, like Charlotte, trying to use up some of the fabric that I have. So
somebody asked, does the liner come off after sewing over it?
Not totally. Although if you sew right on the chalk line, you won't see it. I mean, you can see.
It washes away.
It washes away.
Okay.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Yes, it does. One of the nice things about it, one of the nice things about using that choco liner, and she's telling you how fine the little wheel is in there. It makes a real fine line, and that choco, usually when you sew right on that line, you just see it puff away. But if it doesn't, you could get it comes off real easy. Now I'm going to talk to you about the windmill and the sunflowers. I have a windmill in my front yard, and I painted the wind vane on my windmill red, so I wanted to do that red. I cut all my fabric out on my, I cut all the applique out on my Scan and Cut. And so it was all done on my Scan and Cut, no hand sewing, no hand cutting. Now what I used for the blades, I used vinyl and sparkly silver vinyl. All of the stitching in there, I used 30 weight sulky thread to do all the stitching. I do not do handwork. I don't care for it unless I have to. And so I used my machine to do the barbed wire and just made some X's across it. And by using the 30 weight thread, which is heavier, there's even a 12 weight you can do. But and then I used a small blanket stitch around all of my applique, and they were 2.0 by 2.0 all the way around. And all of that fabric is stuff that I had in my resource center. And I'm going to put it on my front porch. I just love it. It's really cute.
Okay, so zippity-doo-dah.
Zippity-doo.
Okay. The next item we have to show you is the June Taylor Zippity-Doo-Dah, Zippity-Doo-Done, the Tuck and Sew Zipper Solution cosmetic bag. There's 2 bags in the kit, and it includes the pre-sewn black, in my case, black zipper, and the printed batting for the 2 different size bags. Now, this has that. Charlotte's going to show you how to do the zipper. Anyway, I used my fancy stitches to go across the top on this one. I didn't do it on this particular bag. Anyway, I'm going to let Charlotte show you more about the bag because she'll explain this fancy zipper that comes with the kit.
For the printed. The printed. Oh, I sure do. Okay, I sure do. Let's do. Okay. I'm going to open one of these bags. This is a Quilt As You Go by June Taylor. We've done many of these, and this is really, really cool. We have many different colors of zippers that come in the package, and I'll be showing you the zippers and the colors that they come in. So you get 2 zippers inside here, and then you have this wonderful printed batting on the inside. There you go. And so it's sew by numbers. That's all you have to do is sew by numbers. Here's the large one and here's the small one. Now I'm going to show you how I actually did one because I left it unsewn for this. So one of the things that I wanted to do, because it's a makeup bag, I put vinyl on the inside. I ironed the iron on vinyl. I put on the You have to remember when you iron your vinyl on, you're going to iron on the right side of your fabric. If you run it, you know, we normally do so many things on the wrong side. Don't do that. It doesn't work because you want that on the inside. And when after I had this all ironed on, and when you take your paper off of your vinyl when you're going to iron on, you keep that paper, and that's how you put the paper on top of here, or you could use one of your applique sheets. But you don't want to touch the iron to this because it's vinyl and it'll melt. Then what I did, because this is my line that goes around my little purse here, my little bag. Well, after I put all my fabric here, where am I going to cut? Because I've got this line here. So what I did was I had my vinyl on the back, put it down right side down to the table, put my printed fabric on the top here, and then before I started doing any stitching, I stitched all the way around the outside line. That keeps the backing in place, but also what it does is when you're finished putting all your little pieces together, you have a line here that you can make your 1/2 inch seam allowance all the way around the bag, and you know exactly the way that it's going to come out. The nice thing about this pattern too is that it has the bottom cut out here so that you have a flat bottom that this sits on, and so it comes out really nice so it'll sit. These are really nice big bags. I also put the vinyl on the inside of this bag because, you know, when we use makeup, it gets on the inside, and this helps from, you know, getting it all messy. Now these are the zippers, and so now you're going to put the zipper on before you sew up the sides to this. So you're going to open your zipper. Now keep this, they're really smart. They put the slide in the center. Keep it there. If you don't, you can get in trouble. So you're just going to open this nice big flap here, and you're going to stick your bag right into that and come right over the top. Now, you know, Linda used her decorative stitches. I'm going to go home and I'm going to use decorative stitches on this. You know, those stitches are in your machine. You pay for those, so use them. They're really pretty. So if you can put, you guys know I love glue, and glue can be washable and it can be permanent. So I can use my glue stick that I used on my zipper, and I can put it down on here, or on this, or I can put it on the fabric and lay it there, and I don't have to use I never have to use a pin. You know, pins make it buckle and sometimes they don't come out nice. And you don't have to get red and you don't have to get black. We have navy blue and we have white. And we have a real soft gray, black. The red is kind of a red-orange, so you kind of have to watch your reds on that one. And then we have one more, which is a tan. So we have, camel. Let's get that one right. But you can see, now all of my fabric was stuff that I had used on other things. Actually, this is a Lorelei piece that, you know, I thought that would look appropriate with the red, and it happened to be the correct red for this zipper, and that's the only thing. But so you have all these choices for your zippers. So you probably, you know, you might want to buy a couple of packages and make them for gifts to give away. Let me get this. What are we doing? Here, let me get this out of the way. Okay. So Linda, we did that one. We're going to do the hot stuff. Okay, let me put this up here. Okay, hot stuff, I think, is one of the coolest things. And I have a daughter, and I have some daughter-in-laws that I know that are going to want to have one of these. This is, what's so cool about this, this is for your curling iron when you're going to travel. And inside here, which makes this really, really unique, is it has a silicone liner. This is what your actual hot curling iron can go into, and it's kind of gridded on. It has a little nubby on the inside, so it's going to keep that iron right down there. I'm a cosmetologist by profession, And I always buy professional irons. My irons get really, really hot, and it's always a problem when we go traveling. I need to wrap them in a wet cloth or wrap them. I don't have to. I can put these really hot irons right in here. So and this could pull out. This is the center, and all you're going to do on here, on this particular piece, is you're going to put this cute little fabric right along here and sew it. And then I'm making one for my daughter right now. Hopefully she's not watching. She likes red and black, so this is going to be hers. Now this is the outside, which is this is the outside that I'm going to talk about. This is a pocket that goes on top here. This pocket, I used SF 101 as my interfacing, and then this is the pocket, and it has a liner on it. Just the SF 101 is on the inside of here, and then this is the little piece that I've cut to make my binding on the top of the pocket. This is my bag, the inside, the bag. And I used Annie Soft and Stable. Now to make this, to sew around it and to make it so that you don't have any missed stitches around, use a denim needle 100 to 110. Denim needles have a larger eye on them, and they also have a very sharp point, and it will go around. It's really simple. If you haven't used Annie Soft and Stable and sewn through it, most of us have, you can sew through it just like butter. And so what I do, I don't pin it when I'm going to sew this around so that the Soft and Stable is sewn on before I sew the two pieces together, and then I could trim this the way that it should be. But what I do is I use 505 spray, removable spray on the back. Now you can use KK2000 or 505. There's a difference in those products. KK2000 dissipates in the air, and it dissipates pretty quickly. 505 if you need things to stay longer, use 505 because you need to wash that out. So there's two different types. I use two different ones depending on what I'm doing. But this by using those products, I don't have to use any pins. I sewed all the way around them before I put them together. And this is your bag. And you guys will want to buy one more or two more of the inserts so you can make these for the people that you know that travel.
So I'd like to show you my bags too. And like Charlotte, I have two daughters. And when I'm making things, I usually send pictures through the phone to share what I'm doing with the girls. I no sooner sent the picture than I got a text back. I want one, and so does Vic. So I got my fabrics out that I knew would work well for them. This was the one I made for myself. This is one daughter's, and this was the choice of the other daughters. So you can see they work up beautifully. And I brought mine with my curling iron in it so that you could see how it goes in the case. And then I believe the pocket is probably for the cord, yes, because when the iron's hot, you don't want that cord in there with it. So this is, let's see if I can get this out. There's the silicone liner, and it just goes right down in there. Anyway, so those are my daughter's cases. So then we have one more drawing, and this one is Running with Scissors tool case. It's a bag for all your sewing notions, your scissors, your rotary cutters. Probably there's a tab in here to put your, looks like thread. Anyhow, the pattern has all the directions on the back of it to make this. And this is going to Terry Webster. Congratulations, Terry. Give us a call and let us know what store you want to get this at.
Okay. We want to thank all of you that tuned in today and to watch our so fun. I can't remember what I'm doing there. Okay, and we want to remember to tell you that the additional 3 prizes will be drawn on Tuesday, and that's 11 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, and then they'll get all the information that they need on that. And also remember, when you do that, you want to show a picture of your show and tell. And all the products that we have here today, some of them we've already sent to our stores. So those of you who are up in Bellingham and down in Olympia, you probably have some stuff right now at your store that you can go in today and you could purchase them. Those that can't, there's going to be on the website, and it's also below, I think, on our Facebook page, correct? Okay, so that you guys can always get that. And there's free shipping on orders over $100. So spend lots and then you get free shipping. And we want to thank you for joining us today, and we hopefully will see you in person soon.